Welcome to Pixel Realms, the podcast where two geeks dive headfirst into the gaming multiverse. They're basically like Gandalf in a headset, minus the wisdom and magic. So, grab your snacks and level up your patience. Pixel Realms, where the pixels are real, but the knowledge, not so much.
This is Pixel Realms, episode 24. We're talking about top favorite movies based on games, comic books, toys, etc. As usual, we're your hosts, Mark and Joe, and we're going to start off the news with everyone's current favorite subject all around the world because of the U.S.'s big new thing, tariffs. Joe, we love tariffs, right?
Mark just likes to start off with just terrible, sad news. I think that's just, he wakes up in the morning and just wants to make people's life a living hell.
You know, you get what you sow, or something. I don't know.
So, as everyone knows, the tariffs are a big deal, not just for the U.S., but other countries as well. And so, if you're in the U.S. and things are being imported from other countries, which most things are, you'll be seeing an increase in most things. And one of the biggest areas that have been hit the hardest has been anything to do with computer stuff. And so because it's aluminum and steel and all that jazz, so anything imported that uses those materials are going to have X number of percentage increase in tariffs. China got hit with a pretty big one. And it looks like it's here to stay at least for the next 4 years with the U.S. Maybe some wiggle room here and there, but for the most part, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty long 4 years for anyone looking to buy new PC stuff. Look at Nintendo. Mark, talk about the Nintendo thing because you were talking to me about that.
Yeah, so Nintendo, this podcast is recorded later, or we record ahead. Still, not 100% sure when this episode will come out, but basically the Nintendo pre-orders were supposed to be the 9th of April. They might still be. There's a chance that they could be, but and who knows? By the time you're listening to this, maybe you can pre-order the system. But any delay is going to be because of the tariffs. And there's a talk of already the expensive system could see another price increase already because of said tariffs. I could tell you one company, they do mostly computer cases, the company Height. I believe they're spelled Hyte. They're a fairly newer company. I've only really seen them the last like 3 or 4 or 5 years. 2021, I think, is when they started really coming out. And so basically, some of their cases most of their stuff is going up in price. So they have the model, the Y40, which is usually $130, is going up to $140. The Y60 is going from $179.99 to $199.99. The Y70 is going up another $20 from $219.99 to $23.99. And then one of them, the Y70 Touch Infinite, is $379.99 normally. It's going up to $439.99. So just, and those are just a couple price increases. Someone like me, I'm a collector. I collect Transformers. I collect, a lot of times I do anime figure unboxings, Transformer unboxings for my YouTube channel. And a lot of that stuff is imported from Japan, from other countries. And they've already said that at least Transformers for sure is going to see some kind of price increase. Might be $5, might be less, but it's still a price increase on an already kind of overpriced market. Transformers, when I was a kid, were, I don't know, a $35 figure that you would buy today was probably $20 to $25. So over the years have gone up like $10-15, and now we're going to see a potential price hike there. I know some companies, there's that deal with anime figures. For example, one of them, their prices are going up like immensely from, I believe the retail price for one of the figures that I saw floating around was like $165, and it's going up to $210. from 165. And that's to me, that's crazy. And this is all because of our wonderful country and their and our now amazing tariffs that are supposedly it's going to bring jobs and money and everything back to the U.S. We'll see what happens. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But a lot of the companies that are talking about bringing jobs to the U.S. aren't the companies that we want. So a lot of our computer stuff, like you said, Joe, a lot of our collectibles, a lot of children's toys, that kind of stuff is going to probably see price hikes, and they're not some of the companies that are talking about putting more jobs in America. So
Yeah,
it'll
and
be interesting to see.
to put this in perspective just a little bit, the United States, this is an estimated number, the United States had about the same amount of consoles sold of the Switch, the first Switch, as Japan had.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the United States is small, small person when it comes to. Actually, it had more. Nintendo in Japan, the Nintendo Switch, sorry, sold about 37 million in Japan. Okay,
Mm.
and United States estimated to have sold about 58 million.
Mm. Wow.
So if you look at the total number of sales of that Switch, which was, I don't remember the number off the top of my head anymore, but the United States accounted for nearly half of the sales. Throw in the
Yeah.
UK and throw in Canada, throw in United States. I mean, so United States, yeah, those three countries, and all of a
It's North
sudden,
America in general, right?
North America and UK, throw all that together, and it's sold over half of the number of Switches for Nintendo.
Yeah. The
So,
thing is like Nintendo's already kind of burying themselves, and the tariffs might hurt their profit even more. But who knows? Like we don't want to dwell on this too long. There's a whole lot of things we don't know. Just assume that things are going to be more expensive. If you are thinking about collecting something, if you're thinking about buying something, maybe do yourself a favor when you're saving money for some of these products to maybe possibly do your own kind of price hike. Like, for example, if you're figuring, I don't know, $1,500 to build a new computer, maybe go ahead and figure, I don't know, 1700, give yourself a couple hundred extra dollars to figure into potential price hikes. Maybe even go as far as 2000.
and one thing, like,
Just an example.
to keep in mind is this. On the last episode, we talked about our collectible stuff, things we've collected, and we've also talked about in that episode how you have to be cautious on understanding your financial situation
Yep.
and keep it in mind now with the tariffs, because while, yeah, it would be cool to have, that Lego set that comes from Denmark. Well, now that Lego set potentially is going to be 10 to 20% more expensive, based on
Yep.
tariffs. Can you actually afford it now? Just because you really want it, that extra $20 is a big deal, because if you're buying 5 of them, that's an extra $100. Can you afford it? So keep that in mind as you go forward. I saw someone, this is crazy. Someone ordered an MSI 5090. Okay, which is already an expensive car, $28,000.
Jesus Christ.
The person got an email a couple days later, said due to tariffs, the cost is now $3,500. You have 3 days to respond, or your order will be canceled.
Whoa! Wait. So that was 2,800 before?
2,800. It went up to 3,500.
Huh.
A $700 increase because of tariffs.
God damn.
And we're looking at potentially the same thing when that Switch 2 comes out, which was retailed at $450, was it? Right? Is that what Nintendo was saying?
$450 or
In the
$500 with the
US?
bundle. Which let's be honest, most people are going to buy the bundle because it's going to come
Well, will they?
Mario
Can they
Kart.
afford it?
Well, you're right.
$700, maybe $800 in the US, depending on how much of a war this continues with the tariffs.
Here's the thing, though. Nintendo fanboys, hardcore Nintendo people will justify anything when it comes to Nintendo. That's just how they are.
I agree with that. The hardcore people, but the hardcore people are not millions.
Yeah,
in the
no, I
US.
mean, here's the thing. I think at the end of the day, if the tariffs are really going to be that bad, and we'll know pretty soon how bad it's going to affect things, especially with the Switch 2 coming out, uh, you know, Nintendo's going to have to make a choice of whether or not they're going to drop the price so that people can afford this system, or they might have a failure on their hands.
Yeah.
I actually was at again. This is going to be very behind, but the current date is before the Switch to pre-orders become available. And I spoke to a representative at GameStop yesterday, and she said going around, you know, not press conferences, but conference calls, that there's going to be a pretty generous amount of Switches available for pre-order at each of their um, buildings. She said roughly about 100 each, which is for a brand new console. And some of these smaller stores are all getting like 100, potentially 100 consoles is pretty good.
Yeah.
And now it's one of those things like, are these consoles going to sell now? Because you're talking about an already overpriced system on realistically nothing that impressive. Like, Nintendo games always look nice. Like I never shit on Nintendo openly because, at the end of the day, their first party stuff's great. But they've always been affordable. I mean, yeah, with the Switch, I felt like they started overpricing their peripherals, their accessories were a bit overpriced. But the console itself was a very good price, in my opinion. And now you've got the peripherals are going to be expensive as hell, as well as the console. And in the games, it's going to be super expensive too. I mean, you might be looking at a Wii U. You might be looking at even more of a Wii. It'd be even worse than the Wii U. You might be talking about Switch 2 as the, as the PU. So I don't know. Like, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. As always, we'll keep you up to date with what we know on our end and discuss it. It's an interesting time to be part of the gaming world and community, and we don't want to dwell too much on it. We already spent about 10 minutes on it now, so let's move into
Joe,
actually fun stuff.
Yeah, so Joe, the topic of the episode was is our favorite movie-based game. Movies based off of other media, like comic books, like video games, like toys, etc. And looking at the list, you and I have a very similar-esque list.
And I expected that because we do have a lot of similarities with interest when it comes to like movies and whatnot. And I think our differences definitely come down to the games we like to play.
Yes.
You're more into the indie and the roguelite multiplayer kind of games. I'm more of a solo single player story based game.
Yeah,
mostly
you're an
AAA
introvert.
titles. Yeah, and I'm a very big introvert doing a podcast and then streaming my flight sim stuff. Where's the living hell out of me?
But and I'm an extrovert.
Yeah, and our list really shows our what do you want to say? The years we grew up. I think it really shows
it also
that.
shows our age.
We're old bastards. You more importantly, but
you aren't that far behind me, dipshit.
Listen, let's not talk about the past, man. We're talking about the future, and that is so. Okay, so we both have Ninja Turtles. Yep. And I remember watching the Ninja Turtles when I was like probably 6 or 7, like the live action. I never heard of the comics back then. It was the movie, and the movie was dark, man. The movie was dark.
I actually didn't know it was a comic book either. I first watched it as a cartoon, and then the live action movie. So I never thought. The live action Ninja Turtle movie was definitely a lot darker than what I'd seen on the cartoon. The cartoon still told pretty decent storylines for being a cartoon,
Hmm.
but they never got as serious.
The
But
cartoon
that
was
that original movie,
the cartoon kind of had that serious tone, like the real
it did.
Ghostbusters cartoon
Yes,
did as well. Both of them
they
for
did
being.
shy away from storylines that could be considered more adult-esque, but they still did have a kind of a
Oh
childish
yeah, for sure.
what do you call it? A childish spin
Hmm.
on certain situations.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but the 1990, was it? I thought it was 89, but it might be 1990 Ninja Turtle movie, the first
yeah.
live action movie. It was interesting, and I remember being legitimately. I didn't cry during the film like I did with Transformers, but I was definitely worried. There was a scene with Raphael when he like basically got the crap kicked out of him and like dropped through a ceiling.
Yeah.
And he was out for a good you know quarter of the film. Not like half the film, but a good like quarter of the film. He was hurt, and there was the whole stuff with Splinter getting captured by the Shredder, and it looked like they might kill off Splinter as well, and yeah, heck, even the conclusion to the film, it looked like they had actually killed Shredder, which we found out he didn't die.
Whoa,
But
spoiler alert. Come on now.
shut up,
Come on now. People haven't seen
shut
it yet.
up.
It's 35 years. It got time,
Yeah,
man.
okay, yeah.
So
Anyway, so
yeah, but like it's interesting. Ninja Turtles is interesting because at least for me, as I've gotten older, it's gone from being, an action martial arts type of movie to more realistic in its
mhm,
tone.
yes,
You start comparing certain things from that movie to your real life.
yeah,
I have two brothers and I have a sister as well, but with my brothers, I don't have anything close to the camaraderie that the turtles have together. My
no,
sister and I, we definitely do. I feel like my sister, we would be part of that cohesiveness like them. And like a Splinter having that father figure, I didn't have a father figure growing up. I had my mother, but she became my Splinter for me. As you get older, you start to
yeah,
kind of put things together and how like Casey Jones, for example, you meet someone that you have a great connection with, and all of a sudden you can rely on that person going forward to have your
yeah,
back, and that's the
yeah,
role that Casey Jones played in that.
yeah. With the turtles, for me, it was kind of more like things that I wanted, but I knew I could never have. Not to sound like sad, but it was just something that let me fantasize a little bit because like I was the youngest of my family. I was the last born in my family. The youngest before me, I was already a good 10, 15 years older than me. So like my the next sibling to me is in their 50s plus. So I've never had a real connection with my siblings, at least not like a deep one where there was that camaraderie, and my dad was there, and very strict, military person, but taught me a lot of things, the way Splinter taught the turtles, when it comes to like discipline and just things. So, there were some similarities that I took, and then there was also things where it was kind of like things that you wish you could have, and not like in a bad way of like, oh man, I'm so bummed out because I don't have brothers like that or whatever. But that childish kind of fantasy of like, man, I wish I could have had something like that. That would have been cool to have like brothers around my age that we could pal around with.
Yeah, and so let's continue in that time period. And for me, it's going to be Batman '89, and you have the
Hmm.
Dark Knight, which is Christopher Nolan's
Yes.
Dark Knight, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, let's talk about that because that's interesting that you put that down versus the '89 Batman. So, why was the Dark Knight one bigger for you than the original
Because I
movie.
understood it
Okay.
better. When I was a child, I was not into comic books. I was not into comic books at all. And what few comic books I did read were more Marvel based. I didn't like Superman. I didn't like Batman. I didn't like any of those characters. So I never saw those original films until much later, until I was much older. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises. That was the series that kind of got me more interested in Batman. Granted, the animated series was the real like segue into Batman, but these definitely helped continue that word on. So, like, after consuming the animated series, and getting and really liking that one and Superman and the Justice League and whatnot, and then obviously these films, the Nolan series, would let me go back and watch some of the older films that I didn't grow up watching, and kind of appreciate them or make fun of them in certain cases. So, yeah, and The Dark Knight was probably the closest thing you'll come to a comic book masterpiece. I feel like, and I'm not a Batman fan. I'm not a big Batman fan. I don't dislike Batman. I like Batman, but I'm not like, I don't consume a lot of his media. I don't rush out to play the games or read the comics or watch anything, all the stuff involving Batman. But I felt like the way that film was done kind of was like everything you kind of wanted in a comic book film.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, 89, and I put that down because it was the first Batman movie I ever saw. But I did, so my first into Batman was definitely the series, the Batman animated series,
Yeah.
92 or 93. I think it was 92 is when they came out. So shortly after, but that's when I got into Batman. And
Yep.
then eventually, probably I was around 10 or so is when I actually watched the movie. But once I saw the movie, I went from enjoying the little toys for the animated series to wanting the toys for the Batman movie.
Yeah.
And which is cool because then the Batman 2 came out and the toys were marketed a lot more because Warner Brothers like, well, hell, we can get kids to buy these things. Now we can have a big old market now. And it sold extremely well. And then the downfall of the Batman series happened. Whereas nowadays, the toy line isn't as big of a deal for
No.
movies. You look at The Dark Knight, yeah, sure, there's a toy line, but the toy line is for like adults, not so much for kids.
Yeah.
Whereas the Turtles can be marketed for, there were when the rebooted movies came out, there were toys marketed for kids. There were toys marketed for adults as well.
I find something fascinating though about some of the toys, and I don't know how often you browse the toy section, and ever since I've gotten back into Transformers is the only reason why I see. Pause it. All right, so I because since I've been back into Transformers, I browse the toy section more, and I've noticed some interesting things. Is that a lot of stuff comes and goes. Ninja Turtles aren't really, for example, Ninja Turtles aren't super prevalent right now because there's no real turtle show. So I've been going to the toy sections a lot lately because of my recollecting of Transformers, and I've noticed some things, like, for example, Ninja Turtles. I don't really see a lot of turtles down the toy aisles anymore. Batman has it's combined with DC now, obviously, and it's just a very small little slither. They're the only things that are really like prevalent right now is Transformers has stayed kind of in the limelight. They're always represented on the shelves. Wrestling action figures seem to be on the shelves a lot more lately. Marvel's kind of got like a section now, whereas for the longest time they didn't. So a lot of the toys, and then right now, because I think there was a big, there either is coming or was a big Jurassic Park release coming or going to be coming. So there's a lot of Jurassic Park stuff right now. So the toys are very in and out.
Makes
Like I said,
sense.
I'm seeing a lot more anime related merchandise. And when I was a kid and a teenager, that stuff was very, very not mainstream. So you didn't see that stuff on the shelves, but you're seeing a lot of shows, a lot of the big shows, the Naruto, the Bleach, the Dragon Ball, and some of those other shows that have gotten really popular, and you're starting to see them more in the section now too. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, some of these things like Batman has gotten very little to almost no representation right now because there's no big Batman thing coming. And then when the next Batman related film comes out, I'm guessing when the Batman 2 comes out or is about to come out, then maybe we'll see a flare up again of Batman merchandise, for example.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. The way that retailers work. Yeah, obviously, you want to sell what's hot. You're not going to just sit on something
Yeah.
that's not going to move.
It just
But like,
kind of surprises me though, because like stuff like Ninja Turtles, for example, were always a toy first, or was considered to be a toy first, even though I guess they really weren't a toy first. They were a comic book first, but they were a very heavily pushed toy for a long time. So not seeing much Ninja Turtles is kind of interesting as well.
yeah, like so, and I think with the movement with Amazon and online retailers, I think people now can just get a lot of these toys via the web versus, expecting to go
Yes.
into a KB Toys or something, which I don't think exists anymore, at least in the US, and buy one of these toys. You can get billions of them through any other retailer out there. And then you can also
Yeah.
get, old school stuff via eBay.
Yeah.
People that have collect them like you are. You
Yeah.
can get them through eBay.
Transformers, for example, is very. I never knew it was as intricate as it is. So, not to stay on it long, but like for example, Transformers has got like a mainline one where these toys are fairly cheaply made and they are geared towards children. Then you've got another line of figures that is more for the adult collector. And then there's third party and fourth party people out there. Obviously those don't get sold in stores because they are unofficial products. So, you don't see a third party or fourth party person making Optimus Prime and calling him Optimus Prime. They call
Yeah.
him something else.
Which is the toys I used to have. The knockoff toys when I was growing up. I wouldn't have Optimus Prime. I would have Optimus, Preem or something.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of Transformers, okay, so Mark, you need to contain yourself because I know you want to eventually do a Transformer themed episode. So,
yeah,
let's briefly talk about the Transformers because it's on both of our lists. I have the 2017 original. That was what's his name? A Michael Bay Transformer movie, and you go back to '86, which was the original Transformers movie.
Yes. I've been collecting off and on since the original toy line. I was a heavy collector in my teenage years, and I've just recently gotten back into collecting again. And I've seen all the films, all the way from the '86 film and I've seen them all in theaters. I think there's only been one Transformer film.
Oh, you saw the OG in theaters?
Yes, sir.
Really? Like after release, or you would have been like what, 5?
Yeah. Well, '86, I was 3 or 4. So I was a huge Transformers fan when I was a child. So,
was it like a
my mom
re-release
took.
when you saw it, or did you saw
No,
it
it
when
was
you were
it was.
when you were 3?
I was 3 or 4. I didn't understand
Wow.
what was happening. The only thing I knew was that Optimus Prime had died,
Okay.
and I had to be taken from out of the film because I was crying and I was disrupting the film. So I was
Oh,
taken out, and
that's almost like a Batman thing, in the Batman '89 movie where Batman would go out of the opera, or whatever, because he was scared, and then his parents got killed in the alley.
I've seen it. I mean, I watched Transformers a couple years later. I'd say around 8, 9, 10, and I saw the movie again on VHS, and I was still just as distraught over Prime dying, because Optimus Prime was sort of a quasi weird kind of father figure to me. It always sounds weird saying it, because he's a robot that turns into a truck, right? So it's kind of weird saying that this guy was like this robot was like a father figure to me, but he was like another father to me, in the sense of like how he was portrayed was he wasn't your stereotypical superhero. He wasn't your stereotypical main character, which was usually loud and boisterous and flashy. Optimus Prime was not monotone, but kind of a lower register, calm, gentle, you would say, and it comes right back down to it goes all the way back to the performance of Peter Cullen, who literally was channeling his older brother, who had just gotten back from the military, and his older brother had told him, say, if you're going to be a hero, be a real hero, be strong enough to be gentle. And he took that to the audition, and he essentially channeled his brother's voice into Optimus Prime, and that's the iconic voice that most people have grown up with over various generations, whether you grew up with the 86 film, whether you grew up with the Michael Bay films, or around the time of Transformers Prime. So yeah.
And like my history of Transformers isn't anything close to yours. My brother was the Transformers guy. I was at the time more into GI Joe, and I really never appreciated Transformers, honestly, until maybe the early, I'd say around 2008 or so is when I started kind of getting interested in Transformers. So that got me to watch the OG movie, got me to watch some other cartoons, with it and whatnot. And then obviously the Michael Bay stuff came out, and I watched the first couple movies, and then I kind of started losing interest because, well, it's Michael Bay and he just goes over the top with everything. But I
Yep.
like the story, and I love that they obviously brought back Peter Cullen, and they brought back who they could to do some of the original voices. And the foundation was there, and they had great actors, and so the things were fine with it. And I feel like they've figured out what they want to do with the series now. And what's the last one called? Age of Extinction. Is that the last one? What was the
The
last the Beast one?
No, that was Rise of the Beast.
Oh, Rise
You
of the Beast.
had Yeah, you had the original film was just Transformers, and then it was Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction,
Hmm.
The Last Night. Then you had the reboot, which was started with the Bumblebee
Bumblebee.
film,
Yeah.
and then Rise of the Beasts.
So Rise of the Beast
Which,
and Bumble were pretty good. Bumblebee they were both. I like those
yes,
ones. They were they felt like the Transformers, but they didn't feel like the Michael Bay Transformers. And they just felt better. I liked them. I had a lot of fun with those two. And I surprisingly, because I after what's it? Age of Extinction was the last one before the last two, right? Or was that which one was that now? I'm all confused.
The Last Night was the last one that Bay did, and then Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast were. He was just an executive producer, and he had
Okay,
different directors,
that explains
directors,
it.
and
That explains it.
and
Yeah.
we don't. The next rumored live action Transformers film is going to be a collaboration with GI Joe, and there's no real date on that one.
Yeah.
So
Either way, I thought they were a lot of fun. And then I watched the animated movie. Mark and I watched it actually together, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We were both a little hesitant on some of the voice actors' choices, but the story was fun, and the voice actors did a really good job. A really good job.
yeah,
Anything else you want to
it
add?
didn't do well.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't do well, and it's up in jeopardy. But other than that, that's neither here nor there. That there's a whole nother time for it. So that's it on Transformers.
He knows he doesn't want to go too much more into it.
I
That's
could keep
funny.
going and going.
We'll have an episode all for that. All right, so let's go to so let's do the Marvel universe next because I only have Captain America. You have the universe, the cinematic universe that ties in all the movies, Iron Man, Hulk, and
Mhm.
all that jazz.
Yeah,
So why did you choose the entire universe and not just a single movie?
because it was a little bit harder for me. I've seen most of all of them all the way up until Endgame. I don't think I missed many. I don't think I saw the first Doctor Strange in theaters, and I don't think I saw Iron Man 2 in theaters, but I think I pretty much saw all the other films in theaters. The original Iron Man was fantastic, and I thought was great. Most of the Captain Americas, except for the first one, which I don't blame the first one. That was more of like a setup. I thought all the Avengers films were good. I thought a couple of the Thor films were okay. And they all, they all were one big like tie-in. Like if I had to pick my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe film, I'd probably go Winter Soldier, Captain America, Winter Soldier,
Yeah, I think
or
most
Endgame.
people, yeah.
But it's really hard to pick just one. So I thought it was easier to kind of tie them in together because they were a big part of that. What 5-10 year stretch
Oh,
between
10 year,
Iron Man
over 10 year.
and well, between Iron Man and Endgame at the very least.
Uh, oh, that's over 10 years, right?
It might be,
Iron Man was
probably.
2008, and Endgame was that wasn't too long ago, was it? I guess it might have been.
Endgame's been a while now. Pre-pandemic at the very
2019.
least.
So it's just over 10 years. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's so yeah, your thought process is right. Well, not right, but like, I like your thought process, I should say. Um, my wife got into she's a weird one to have interest in superhero movies because she's not a superhero person. Like she's
Yeah.
watched The Dark Knight and she's watched Henry Cavill, Superman. No, she's watched those things, but she's not a superhero person. She never has been. She liked Wonder Woman, thought it was fine, but she's not a superhero person. And
Yeah, and I was the same way.
she's not a patriotic person either. She's born and raised here in the United States, and she's not a very patriotic person. She's not anti-American, but she doesn't like the way the country has been going since her birth. With a lot of people are the same way, millennials especially. And
Yeah. I
she
mean,
really,
I wouldn't call myself a patriotic person either, but I also didn't really think about it. I was never really into politics at all. And I just, outside of the X-Men and Wolverine, none of these characters I knew about or cared about. So like, it was literally that first Iron Man movie that kind of sparked any kind of knowledge and interest in these characters. I didn't know who Iron Man was. I didn't know who Captain America or Thor or the Hulk outside. Well, I knew a little bit of Hulk, but like, some of these characters, I had no idea who any of these people were. I had no idea if they were, how important they were, if they were important, this, that. So yeah.
yeah. And so my wife, she really connected with Captain America. And that's why I bring up the patriotic thing because she's not a patriotic person. Obviously, Captain America is. He's all about, America. That's his name. Um, so it was really interesting for her to have that connection with him. And obviously, Chris Evans did an incredible job at bringing that character to the big screen and help set her interest in the Marvel universe. And then she had seen every single movie, including
Mhm.
Endgame, and that's kind of where all ended for her. Once Captain America was done with the MCU, she was out of the
Mhm.
MCU, and we both are kind of in the same boat, her and I, with that. I've seen
Yeah.
a couple of the series, the Disney Plus series. I've seen a little bit of the movies that have come out, but I'm like way behind from where a lot like the new Captain America Brave New World. Where I have no interest in seeing it. I have no interest,
Nope.
and and
Nobody was interested in that one.
yeah, it hasn't done well, and I have nothing to do with the actors or the handoff. None of that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just I like the original Captain America. I love
Yeah.
What Chris Evans did, and
Yep.
we've talked about it before with the new Superman. Like I am a big Henry Cavill fan, and I'm not interested in this new Superman because I don't think it was necessary.
That's true.
It's going to do fine. It's the story looks interesting. I think the guy who's playing him will probably do a really good job as playing the next, Superman character, Clark Kent. But it's just not in. I have no interest in it, and I
Yeah.
didn't have that way. And it's interesting to bring that up because I didn't have that way with the Dark Knight.
And so, kind of segueing from Marvel, I on my list is Deadpool. They were still owned by Fox going into that last film in 2024. And it was kind of like a send off of some of the Fox properties. So yeah, I kind of and I kept it. So that's why I kind of kept it separate as well, because I'll put it like this: I don't go to the theater anymore at all. I haven't been to the theater since outside of, I think, the Mario Brothers movie, and maybe I don't know what year that first Angry Birds film came out, but I saw that one in theaters because of my kids, and we as a family went to see Mario. So outside of that, I haven't been to the theater since, at least Mario, and Deadpool and Transformers are the only reasons why I went to the theater last year at all.
Makes sense.
So
Like
that's why it's pretty high on the list for me.
the Deadpool movie was incredible, and
Yeah.
yeah, I like that you separated. That makes perfect sense. That it was previously Fox, and now it's part of the MCU, and they went ham
Yeah.
with it being part of the MCU now.
I almost added the X-Men. I said, I really only like the first two X-Men films.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was too.
I like the Wolverine films, but I don't think they were good films.
The last one, Logan, was really, really good. I like Logan.
Yeah, Logan was really good, but at the same time, I kind of refused to watch it because I was like, oh, they're killing off Wolverine. I don't really want to see that, so I didn't go see it in theater. But
Yeah.
Either way,
For me, whatever the last X-Men movies, I can't remember what they're called. It's like what the new cast of them. Anyways, the best part of those movies was when they were trying to recruit Wolverine. I'll just put it like that. I didn't care for him as much. The original X-Men movies were fine, but I never was like really deep into the X-Men series. Even like the old cartoon, the theme song was the best part for me.
Yes. And the '97 series is great. The new.
Yeah, I watched a couple of
return.
that. Yeah, I watched a couple of episodes of that, and that felt pretty good. That felt nice and got that childhood kind of theme to it. But it felt like one of those. It kind of very similar to like the Ninja Turtle movie cartoons and Batman and Ghostbusters, where it was like it's meant for kids, but it has that adult tone to it as well. What they did really, really well in the
very adult.
'90s. Yeah.
The new one is very adult. They definitely knew that this was for now an older audience.
Yeah.
But they never shied away. Even the original, I guess the original '97 series, like they never shied away from the adult topics, the dealing with bigotry and racism, hatred, that kind of stuff. Like all of that's still very prominent and very well done. And this new series. I was so scared when I heard it was coming back, and I was like, and they're bringing back the original voice cast and everything, and I'm like, oh, this might not go well. But then, like from episode 1 of that new series, I was like, oh, I don't know what I was scared about.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot when studios touch old stuff that were really well done back in the day. You start to question why bring this stuff back. And okay, so I have my
I was
last.
kind of curious. Why do you have Tomb Raider?
So I am one of the very few people, clearly, that really enjoyed the 2018 Tomb Raider movie. So this
With
was
Jolie?
no, not with Jolie. No. This was with
No.
I can't think of her name right now.
Oh,
Um,
the reboot.
yes, this was the reboot. This was
I
the
haven't seen that
attempt at a
one.
reboot. And why I had just a blast at it is because they kept the same tone that the rebooted games were like.
Hmm.
Strong female that's going through adversity, dealing with the first kill, and then now
Hmm.
becoming a savage. Uh, so for me, like I got honestly, I got into the Uncharted series before I got into the Tomb Raider series, which I know the Tomb Raider series came out way before Uncharted did. And Uncharted is kind of like the mix between Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones with Nathan Drake. But the rebooted games got me into this movie, and it got me super
Hmm.
excited. And I thought the actress, she did a phenomenal job playing Laura Croft, and you can show she had a lot of passion playing that role. And it's sad that it didn't do as well because I thought they could have done an incredible series with her playing and building upon the story that they had set, the foundation at least in that movie. And if you look at the games, there were 3 games that came out, and each one of them did extremely well at improving upon the previous one. Now the last one, was it Shadows of the Tomb Raider? I think was what it's called.
Hmm.
Kind of was more of a money grab in my opinion.
I didn't even play it. Like the first of the 3 rebooted games was really good, and I enjoyed the second one okay, but it already kind of felt like it was like a step away from Tomb Raider, and then I didn't even play the final one, and I heard that it was like a lot bigger like turn away from Tomb Raider because it felt like it became more about shooting and killing enemies, and that wasn't why you played a Tomb Raider game.
Yeah, and I should have enjoyed the story a lot more, like the stories around like the Aztec culture and all that jazz. And I should have enjoyed it a lot more. And I honestly, I didn't get to beat it. I played about 80% of it, and I just had lost my interest in it. So that's why I have Tomb Raider on the list. It's kind of a weird one to have on there, but um, it kind of fits the theme where it's any of these movies that I mentioned, I can go back and enjoy it rewatching. Like I've rewatched the 2018 Tomb Raider movie probably 4 or 5 times now, and that just shows how
Mhm.
much I like it. Now, Ninja Turtles, I probably watch once every 4 months. So I've watched it, 100 times by now. It's a movie I can go
Mhm.
back to. It's a comfort movie for me. And you have
That's
an
fair.
honorable mention.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I really, I know a lot of people didn't like it, or at least the film didn't do well. And some people didn't like the acting in it, but I thought the Warcraft movie was well done. I actually really enjoyed it. I was very sad to hear that it didn't do well because I really was hoping to see to be the start of of the franchise again. In movie format, I would have loved to have seen the Lich King film, uh, but they had to start with the opening of the Dark Portal. So I was very disappointed that it didn't do well and that we never got another one because of it.
Yeah,
But
we've
I really liked that movie a lot. I was very pleasantly surprised by it.
we've mentioned it a few times on the
Mhm.
podcast, and how we're disappointed that we're not going to see a future of it, and it's very sad because it was really good. My wife, who is not a Blizzard fan, who's not a Warcraft fan, absolutely loved that movie with a passion, and we're both pissed off that we're not going to see a sequel to that one.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I just thought it was at least worth an honorable mention because I actually hold that film very, kind of very highly. Like it's not like none of these films I go back and watch a lot, and it's not because I didn't like them or whatever. Obviously, a lot of these are on my list because I really liked a lot of these. I just don't watch a lot of films. I've never been a huge movie guy. I'm more of a TV show guy, someone who can put a show on in the background and do other things. Like I do that with anime, I do that with streams, and so the same thing with cartoons and other stuff. Just stuff that I like. I like being able to put it on, kind of listen to it, watch parts here or there that are very interesting or engaging for me. But kind of a comfort thing where I have it on the background, but I'm not watching it, you know, because I've seen the '86 Transformers film. Now I've probably seen it 5 or 6 times, but that's still for a huge Transformer fan like me. That's actually kind of very, very low.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it would be much higher than that.
No, I haven't gone through and watched it a lot of times because you know, even though I don't get upset at it anymore, you know, it's still kind of hard to watch Prime die because again, he's sort of a father figure to me in a weird sense. So, you know, you don't want to watch your father figure die over and over again, even though at this point, you know, Optimus Prime is kind of like the stereotypical comic book character of like he dies every week. So
he's not a Game of Thrones
you know,
where they're dead and gone forever.
yeah, but you know, so yeah, I just thought the Warcraft movie was worth mentioning too, and yeah.
Yeah, fantastic movie for sure. Well, as always, thanks everyone for listening, watching this episode of Pixel Realms, and we will see everyone for the next episode.
Yep, thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.